The village of Karyat al-Nasim rested at the foot of a range of golden hills, where the wind always carried a fragrance of wild desert flowers. It was a small, quiet place where people lived simple lives. Homes were built from sun-dried clay, wells were deep, and the elderly often sat together beside the olive groves, sharing stories of angels and destiny. Among the villagers lived a young man named Yusuf ibn Rahman, a humble weaver known not for his wealth, but for the softness of his character. Yusuf had always carried a gentle smile, one that made strangers trust him and children gather around him like sparrows to a lantern. But inside his heart, Yusuf carried a grief he struggled to hide. His mother, Amina, had fallen ill after a harsh winter. Doctors visited, herbalists came, and the villagers whispered endless prayers. Yet her condition worsened. Her voice grew softer each day, until she barely had the strength to speak. It was Yusuf who cared for her, fed her soup, washed her hands, prayed beside her bed, and whispered warm reminders of Allah's mercy. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in purple and gold, his mother called him with a barely audible voice. "Yusuf, come close." He knelt at her bedside, holding her fragile hand. Her fingers trembled like the leaves of a dying tree. "My son," she whispered, "life gives every soul a lantern. That lantern is Sabr, patience. Without it, we walk blindly in darkness. With it, Allah illuminates even the hardest path." Her words were slow, but they pierced deeply into Yusuf's heart. "I want you to live," she added, not with the weight of grief, but with faith that Allah never abandons those who trust him. And with that final breath, her soul returned to her Lord. The village mourned, but none mourned like Yusuf. His world dimmed, and the once bright smile he carried became a shadow. After the burial, Yusuf's life changed entirely. Silence filled his home, and nights became the hardest. He would sit awake until dawn, staring at the lantern his mother used to light during cold nights. The flame inside it had long gone out, but he could still imagine the warm glow it once cast on the walls. Weeks passed, and the villagers noticed that Yusuf no longer visited the marketplace or the mosque as often as he once did. He prayed at home, alone, struggling with the weight of destiny. One night, after finishing Isha, he opened the Quran and his eyes fell on a verse, as if guided by divine decree. Do people think they will be left alone because they say, "We believe and will not be tested"? Surah Al-Ankabut 29:2. The words shook him. He closed the Quran and whispered into the quiet room, "O Allah, I am weak. Strengthen me. Raise me as one who is patient." The moment he uttered those words, tears spilled uncontrollably. Yusuf's grief was not a sign of disbelief. Rather, it was a heart seeking its Lord after being wounded by life. That night, Yusuf slept for the first time in many days. But his test was just beginning. One early morning, as the village prepared for far prayer, Yusuf walked slowly toward the mosque. The sky above was painted with the first hints of dawn, and the call to prayer echoed through the hills. As he approached the gates of the masjid, he noticed an elderly traveler sitting beneath the palm tree outside. His clothes were dusty, and a wooden staff rested beside him. When Yusuf greeted him with "Assalamu alaikum," the old man looked up with eyes that shined like polished onyx. "Wa alaikum assalam, my son," he replied. "May Allah place tranquility in your heart." The stranger's words startled Yusuf. "Do you know me?" "I know grief when I see it," the man said gently. "It has a scent like rain before a storm." Yusuf sat beside him. "My mother returned to her Lord not long ago." The old man nodded slowly. "Then you must know," he said, "that patience is not only waiting. Patience is trust. Trust that Allah writes nothing except with purpose." He then recited, "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." Surah Ashar 94:6. Yusuf felt as if the man's words were reviving something inside him. "Come for prayer," Yusuf said. "Then you may rest in my home afterward." The old man smiled, stood with surprising strength, and followed him inside. After prayers, they returned to Yusuf's house. The stranger introduced himself as Sheikh Salman, a wandering teacher of Quran and Hadith. As they ate breakfast together, a sudden knock echoed at the door. Yusuf opened it to find two villagers, breathless and wide-eyed. "Yusuf, the desert fields, your crops, they're burning." Yusuf rushed outside. Flames were rising from the wheat fields he had planted months earlier to earn his living for the year. His entire livelihood was turning to ashes. Villagers ran with buckets of water, but the fire spread faster than they could extinguish it. Helplessly, Yusuf collapsed to his knees, watching his future burn. Sheikh Salman reached him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not let Shaitan whisper to your heart in this moment," the sheikh said softly. "Say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un." Yusuf repeated the words with difficulty, tears streaming down his face. "We belong to Allah, and to him we return." The sheikh nodded. "Allah tests those he loves," he whispered, "and he strengthens those who face trials with patience." Though Yusuf's heart was breaking, he felt a strange warmth spreading within, as if his mother's lantern was being lit once again. For days after the fire, Yusuf struggled. With no crops to harvest, no income, and his mother's absence weighing deeply, he feared he would not survive the coming months. But Sheikh Salman stayed with him. They prayed together, recited Quran, and walked to the quiet hills at sunrise. The sheikh taught him the meanings of verses Yusuf had known since childhood, but never truly understood. One evening, they sat beneath the olive tree behind Yusuf's home. The wind gently swayed the branches above them. "Yusuf," the sheikh said, "do you know why Allah gives a hardest test to some people? Because their faith is weak?" Yusuf guessed. "No," the sheikh smiled softly. "He gives his strongest soldiers the toughest battles. He polishes their hearts through hardship, the way a jeweler polishes a stone." Yusuf remained silent. "Your mother left you a lantern," the sheikh continued, "but it is your task to keep it lit." "How?" Yusuf whispered. "By being patient, by trusting Allah even when you don't understand your destiny." Months passed, and though hardship remained, Yusuf grew stronger in faith. He began praying tahajjud regularly, awakening in the silence of night, when the stars hovered close and the world seemed to breathe slowly. With each prostration, he felt the wounds within him heal little by little. One night, after a long, deep prayer, Yusuf whispered into the darkness, "O Allah, if you have written hardship for me, then grant me the strength to carry it. If you have written ease for me, then make me grateful for it." As he finished his dua, a deep tranquility filled the room. It was unlike anything he had ever felt. It felt as if Allah himself was comforting his heart. One morning, as Yusuf walked to the market, a merchant approached him. "You're Yusuf the weaver, right?" the merchant asked. "Yes. I've seen your work before. Fine thread, even patterns. I'm looking for someone to produce a large order of cloth, a contract for the entire season." Yusuf blinked in disbelief. "Why me?" The merchant smiled. "Someone recommended you, a traveler who passed through days ago, a man called Sheikh Salman." Yusuf's heart trembled. The stranger who appeared after far, the man who spoke wisdom, the one who encouraged him toward patience. He had left without saying goodbye, but he had left something greater behind. Hope that as the months turned into a year, Yusuf's life flourished again. He rebuilt his business. He rebuilt his heart. And he became known across the villages as a young man whose faith never wavered, even when tested. One evening, while cleaning his home, he found his mother's old lantern dusty but unbroken. He lit a small flame inside it. The soft glow illuminated the walls, just as it used to during his childhood. He remembered her words. "Life gives every soul a lantern. That lantern is Sabr." Yusuf placed a lantern by his window, where its gentle glow could be seen by anyone passing by. For the rest of his days, he kept it lit, symbolizing patience, faith, and the beauty of trusting Allah's plan.